Hello everyone, it's Saoirse. It's raining outside right now, it's very atmospheric, and I think this is a great time to talk about romance. If you're single like me and feeling really left out this month and just tired of the constant onslaught of things that are geared toward couples, then please gather round. And even if you're not single and you want to watch this, you're quite welcome to. But yeah, I've just been feeling like it's worse than ever this year with the ads for things about love and I'm just like, what is love? What is romantic love? You know, I've got a friendship love and family love and cat love. What is romance? So I thought I'd take a look at my books and try and find some of the love stories that I like the most. Because isn't fictional romance just the pinnacle of romance? Isn't it what we aspire to, whether that's healthy or not? You can sound off in the comments on how healthy you think that is, but I was definitely influenced by every love story that I read and saw growing up, and so my standards are very, very, very high. But I did notice something interesting when I looked at the books on just all of my books, which there's about over 1,000 of them, okay? And I struggled to find love stories because I don't read the genre, the romance genre. Um, and then, like, most of the literary fiction that I read doesn't seem to have a love storyline. Like there's no romance plot in them, which I hadn't thought too much about before, but it was kind of shocking to me that I either couldn't find any or the ones I found were very sad. And I'm looking for things that are going to make me feel better about love. Like maybe it's real because I've read about it. Um, but even some of these ones that I picked out are devastating, but still a nice love story. I guess all love in this lifetime ends eventually. It depends on how you think about death and how love goes on after death. Let's not get too into that though in this video. Good gracious. And let's just look at some of these, and I won't spoil things, or I'll try not to spoil things, but I'll just show you the ones that stood out to me on my shelves. So Anne of Green Gables. Um, this one, in the first book, you don't get much of Anne and Gilbert's love story, but the seeds are planted, and you can go and watch my very long Anne of Green Gables video, and I'll talk about the show Anne with an E, which I really love, and in the show, the love story is really spotlighted, and it's just so precious and pure and beautiful, and yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. Um, so I don't know. Oh yeah, I know what I was gonna say. I realized that maybe all the fictional love stories that I'm thinking of that I wanted to talk about are actually in movies and not books. Like I don't have something against watching movies that are very romantic. Like Titanic is probably my favorite movie. I just watched it last night in theaters for the 25th anniversary screening. You can still go see it in the next week, I think, so do that. But yeah, so I'll watch a lot of movies that have intense love stories, usually tragic, but I just found that I don't have many books like that, which it kind of surprised me. It kind of did. Um, Hunger Games I thought of because there's one where maybe I'll spoil this a little bit. Like you think she's gonna end up with the one person that she like started out with, and then she ends up with the guy who's a lot less exciting but more of a friend. And one of my fears in relationships is ending up with somebody that I just see as a friend, and it's like there's no passion there, there's nothing romantic about it. It's just a very strong like companionship. That scares me. I don't want that. Like I really want something passionate and um, wild, which is what she strays away from because her life has become so chaotic, obviously, because she's in the Hunger Games. And so in the end, she ends up with the much more comforting, stable character. And it seems to work for her. I hope she's happy, this fictional character. What are your thoughts on that? Um, like, I'd like to hear other people's examples because I'm looking at this pile of books here and I'm like, I know somebody's got other examples that hopefully are not purely in the romance genre. Like, I'm not looking for, what do you call those? You know, like the mass market books that have like the picture is always a portion of a woman's sexy red dress, or it's like a really hot shirtless guy or whatever. Like, I don't read books like that. I'm not really interested in hearing about books like that. I mean, you can say whatever you want in the comments. This is a free space here for you to do that. But I'm interested in literary fiction and maybe classics where there's a love story and it's not absolutely depressing. Because it seems like they always are. Like I thought about The Great Gatsby, way too depressing. Um, most of them are. Anyway, this one's a questionable maybe. Jamaica Inn. I read this pretty recently, and I didn't pick Rebecca. If I'm looking at the two, I've only read two Daphne du Maurier books, and I didn't pick Rebecca because that love story is so gross and horrible to me. I love that book, but that guy, ugh. So this guy he's not great. Um, he's a bit of a scoundrel, but the characters seem to really work together, and I, good for them. That's all we can ask for, right? Like if they end up together and nobody's dead and seemingly they're looking forward to whatever bizarre existence they're gonna have. Like, don't we all, or most of us, or some of us, just want to find somebody who can have a bizarre existence with us that we both enjoy? You know, I don't want to be bored, and I don't want to be anybody other than myself. So just, I don't know. I've been thinking about love and trying to figure out, why does it seem so hard? Why is it so hard to find? Well, it's because everything has to line up. I mean, if you want something that actually lasts, not like a short fling, because that's not too difficult for most of us to do, but something that's lasting, you have to have two people who are both attracted to each other. You have to be attracted mentally, physically, all that. You have to both be attracted at the same time and both be looking for something at the same time or open to something at the same time. And like all these little things have to line up in order for it to even start to become something. And that's just asking so much, especially if you have high standards and are easily bored by conventional things, because maybe you've read too many sweeping romances. I can't say I've read too many sweeping romances, but I've read some. Like, let's talk about this one, Wuthering Heights. It's been a really, really long time since I read this book. I'll admit that. So I had to kind of look up the storyline again, and okay, so the two characters, Kathy and Heathcliff, or is it Catherine and Heathcliff? Like, I can't, it's hard to tell, because she has a daughter. Anyway, they're raised as siblings, and they fall passionately in love. They're not blood related, but so it's uncomfy for some readers. And then they don't marry because they're just from different social classes, I guess. But it's such a, I don't know how to word this, epic but toxic romance. Um, and they can really only be together in death. So I guess I am spoiling things. Sorry. But like with the classics, I don't know, I feel like most people kind of know the gist of these. But that one, I had to pick it because it is such a famous romance, but it is such a bummer in the end. Um, Another one that I have to mention because it's my favorite book, Villette, Charlotte Bronte. I kind of don't want to spoil this. So maybe I'll just say this is kind of an unconventional romance. I don't understand when people call this a love story, and I don't think many people do. Like that's not what most critics are saying about this book, but I have heard it called a romance. Definitely not. I don't think that's what it is. But there is, an element of a relationship in the book, and the the whole theme is the main character, Lucy Snow, is really this wallflower, and she completely just stands back and watches life go by, watches her life go by, watches everybody else, and doesn't participate very much, is kind of afraid of her own voice. And she's teaching in a foreign country. She meets another professor, and he like opens her up to being herself, because everybody else is kind of like, oh, Lucy's just watching stuff, like she's quiet, she's weird. And then this teacher, he's got this mean little face every time he looks at her. And he's like, I know you. I know what you are. You have this fire in you, blah, 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 blah. He sees this part of her that she has just never felt like she can release or show to the world. And so he really frees her in a way. And that to me is beautiful. But I mean, he's also like a total jerk. Okay, like their relationship is not smooth sailing, and there hardly even is, a romantic relationship until near the end. And kind of spoiler, but this book doesn't have like a happy ending. But it's still, I think, one of the more realistic romances if we're looking at these books, because they do fight, they do say mean things to each other. He's not so nice, but they have this deep down understanding of each other. Is this my ideal relationship in all of these books? No. I don't like that kind of antagonistic relationship between two people, where it's supposed to be romantic. I don't think that's like my version of romance, but I really love this book and how real it feels, because it is not this idealized romance. It feels very real. Okay, The Time Traveler's Wife. Oh, I just released so much dust into the air. This one I actually listened to as an audiobook a long, long time ago, and I saw the movie, and I guess I picked this up for free somewhere. But I remember it just being like, these two people are just meant for each other, they have to be together. And another one where it was not a happy ending. Like, there's a lot of happiness throughout, but I mean, yeah, I guess everything ends, doesn't it? Everything ends. But I don't know. I can't remember details about that one, but I'm sure you've heard of it. It's very famous, and I think it was a very romantic story, and definitely the movie is swaying my thoughts, because isn't Rachel McAdams in that movie, or am I losing it? Because she's also in The Notebook, and she's in About Time. Like, how could she be in so many very moving love stories? Anyway, did I just wipe my heart off? No, it's still there. Okay. Where the Crawdads Sing. This one's this one's pretty happy if you're looking at, the way it turns out. Um, the characters meet when they're very young. You think for a while they're not going to make it work. They're from pretty different worlds, but they're just extremely drawn to each other, and it was really beautifully written love story while not being the whole focus of the book. Like the books that I read that have a love story in them, usually they're more like a single character driven plot about the protagonist and their self discovery, but they also end up falling for somebody as kind of a sideline thing. I like that sort of stuff. So I just picked this up, an Atlas of Tolkien, to show you, as I say, Arwen and Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings. If we want to talk about beautiful romances that span many, many years and are just the pinnacle of epic and like they're fated to be together, gorgeous. And if you haven't read The Silmarillion, there's also the whole story of Beren and Luthien, which is very similar to Arwen and Aragorn, where you have a human and an elf that fall in love, and how is that going to work? And yeah, just absolutely, gorgeous love stories. Jane Eyre, we have to mention Jane Eyre. This one is very tumultuous, and I don't think we all love Mr. Rochester the whole time. Like Charlotte Bronte really wrote those kinds of stories because I think that's the kind of life she had with when it comes to romance. She was very much in love with a married professor that she knew, and nothing happened with that. She wrote him all these letters, and I think his wife sent them back, or somebody ripped them up. He ripped them up, and his wife like stitched them back together, and so we still actually have some of those, which is really cool. But she was not lucky in love, and in the end, she married someone who, in terms of her the stories that she wrote and the love that she had for this professor, it sounds a bit more chill, and I don't want to say boring, but like not as thrilling of a love story. And then she ended up dying shortly after marrying him. But anyway, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Villette. Different characters, but sort of like the wild older man who the protagonist has to deal with, like, oh, he's just doing he's being nuts right now, and I gotta deal with him. I haven't read this one in forever, and I really want to go back to it. But if I remember correctly, they, after some very scary events, do end up together. Pride and Prejudice. Okay, if you look up what is the greatest love story of all time, Google will tell you it's Pride and Prejudice. I am only including this because so many people love it. I don't get it. I don't get it. If you get it and you think this is the most beautiful love story of all time, please tell me why. They hate each other for so long. The story goes off in another direction for like 500 pages, and you're just like, where are the main characters? Where's the love story that this is supposed to be central to this book? I just didn't get it. I can't stand the enemies to lovers trope. I guess it was kind of hot in Bridgerton in the show. I didn't read the books, but typically like that doesn't work for me because I've never been like, oh, I hate this person. They disgust me in every way, and then ended up going, wait, actually, I love them. That's never happened. Do you know anybody that's actually happened to? Because typically it's more like, oh, I'm kind of ambivalent toward this person, or I don't really know them very well, and then, oh, maybe I do like them a lot. It's usually more like that. This, I don't get it, and I don't get why we think that that is like the epitome of romance. Why is that the most romantic thing of all time? To hate somebody and then like fall in love without like you really they don't want to. You know what I mean? It's like being dragged into falling in love. Like just be single then if you hate each other that much. I don't know. It drove me nuts. But I'm trying to come around to the idea of it, and I think I'm starting to. I'm still venting a lot of feelings that I had while reading it when it was taking me forever, and I was very frustrated with it. Anyway, let's end on a happy note with Romeo and Juliet. See, I got you. Not happy. But, you know, star-crossed lovers and all that. It's this is the kind of stuff where we young readers, you know, when we're reading these things as kids and we're just like starry-eyed, like who's gonna love me? We read this stuff and then we get a very twisted view of love. Um, that you should love somebody so much that you can't live without them, even though they didn't wait for proof to know. Um, wasn't it Romeo thought she was dead, so he killed himself, and then she woke up and then saw that he was dead and killed herself. It's like just I don't know. Double check first, like double check if she's dead. I don't know. That being said, love the story, love the play, big fan, um, because it is so grand and ridiculous and romantic with a capital R. So that's all the ones that I picked out. Not entirely a happy lot, and so maybe my idea of fictional romance being better than real romance is not exactly true. Maybe it is just that fictional romance is the only kind of romance that a lot of us have. So we kind of have to not settle for it, but just kind of, you know, enjoy it. Ooh, check this out though. Okay, I'm just gonna grab this because I'm currently reading it, but I'm gonna include it in this video. Why not? Outlander. Please don't spoil it for me. Please don't spoil it. I'm only 100 pages into it, but I've heard it's a very, very popular romance story. So there, I've mentioned Outlander for you. Much love to all of you. I know that my love does not replace romantic love if that's what you are pining for right now. I totally get it. And yeah, but I love you. Thank you for being here in all the ways that being here means. Being here watching this video, being on Earth alive. I appreciate you. And until next time, happy reading.